Welcome to our podcast and our second episode of Evolving Educators. My name is Donda Sladen, and I'm a new Caney ISD campus administrator, and I'd like to introduce our producer, Chris Hurst. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Donda, nice to be with you again.
It's good to see you. Hey, Chris, did you participate in our Power Up conference? I thought I saw your name on a list.
I did. I presented 2 fully packed sessions. It was a lot of fun.
Wasn't that a great conference?
You know, I love being able to be a part of Power Up. I presented it every year I've been at New Caney.
Yes.
And it's such a thing that I look forward to. It's a good way for me to grow and teachers to grow.
Yes, I would agree. It's an awesome thing. So, Chris, you know what it's like to start a new position and you don't know what you don't know?
Absolutely.
Okay, so when we come back, we will be hearing from a principal who will tell us about the advice she wished she had before she became a principal.
That sounds great.
Welcome back to Evolving Educators. Today we have Stephanie Coronado, and she's the proud principal at Valley Ranch Elementary. And so she's been there 4 years, and she started her career in Pasadena ISD, and I love her fun fact, Chris. She was a kindergarten teacher at the same elementary school where she went to school as a little girl.
That is crazy. And I had no idea you were from Pasadena ISD. So am I.
Isn't that amazing?
Which campus?
More elementary.
Oh my gosh.
And a lot of my
That's
teachers
crazy.
were still there too.
That's a fun fact. Okay, Ms. Coronado, let's jump right in. We're so glad you're here for our second episode, and we love your topic. So when I asked you to be a guest, the first thing that jumped out at me, Chris, she knew right away what she wanted to talk about. Things I wish I knew as a new principal. And so that's such an important topic.
So important, and it'll really lead a lot of insight into people that are trying to become APs or principals.
Yes, very good. So reflecting back, Ms. Coronado, reflecting back on your early days, as a principal, what did you find the most unexpected challenge right off the bat?
There were really 2 things. The first one was I was not aware of how much administrative work there was, all the managerial task.
So I bet in your mind, you thought you would go right in there and be with teachers.
Absolutely, all the time. And so you have to be very purposeful of getting out of your office and making sure you're in the classrooms, interacting with the teachers, the students, because if you don't, then it's very easy to get sucked back in and taking care of all those day-to-day things. And
because those things have to be done.
Right.
So you have to balance that management versus leader. Of your campus. Mm-hmm. Yes. So can you think about just maybe a specific experience you could share with us, that significantly shaped your approach as a new leader?
Yeah, I remember, at first, this was many years ago, and so we still had folders, like manila folders on our desk, and I had one that said follow up on there. And so I would put things in there of as things happen, I was going to follow back up on them, and it was, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks into it. And it was like, okay, that is a huge folder with a lot of pieces of paper in it. And so that's when I had to get very strategic with my calendar and making sure, okay, this is my designated time for this task, and really putting everything on my to-do list of what was I going to accomplish for that day, or at least attempt to, because that's kind of a funny fact too of, when you think you're going to do all this other stuff, that's when other things happen, and you just have to go with it and be all right and know that, okay, next day. So,
you bring up a good point. It made me think you can have a to-do list, you can have these folders, but the follow-up, how important is the follow-up?
Extremely. And like I said, that folder got very thick because there is so much that happens, and you make 1,000 decisions a day, and you talk to several different people and answer all kinds of questions. And so being able to come back around and letting people know, hey, I remembered you asked about this, I checked on this, here's the answer, or we discussed this, I got this product, or whatever it is, like making sure that when you say you're going to do something, you do it. Or if you implement something, you check on it. You see, is this working? Get that feedback.
Yes. What is that they say, what you value gets monitored, or, those.
Yeah.
If you expect it, you inspect it.
Yes, that. So that's very important, the follow-up. So just talk about maybe what support systems then did you have in place, or do you think that is important for someone then to keep theirself organized and following up on those important topics?
So, and again, I go back to that's the importance of a calendar now, and it being digital, but putting time in there of, okay, I need to follow up on this. I need to go see this classroom. I need to talk to this teacher about that, call this parent, talk to the nurse, whatever it is, really putting all of that on your list or your calendar, however it is that you organize yourself.
If it's not on the calendar, it just doesn't happen.
That's exactly right. And I
Even
think
in our
that,
day-to-day things, right?
like, time management and time blocking is so important. I know as a member of the leadership team, I presented like how to integrate Google Tasks with your calendar and your Gmail, and my team loved it. So these are the important lessons that an aspiring leader needs.
Yes, they are. And Ms. Coronado, it goes back to also what you said about being intentional. And then being a manager versus a leader. So when you have those tasks and supports like Chris is talking about in place, that really helps you be able to take care of that leadership side. Would you agree?
It frees you up and really allows you to, okay, here's my time to go into this planning session or really talk, with this teacher or have those conversations that you need to. So I think it allows you to take care of those managerial things so that you can do more of the purposeful leadership.
Yes, because we're there for kids, right?
Absolutely.
So we want to, those time management skills are so important. Let's talk about maybe the role of mentorship. Did you have a mentor early in your career?
I remember sitting in like my fourth grade classroom and thinking, I want to be a principal. I didn't.
Yes.
And I was one that played school all weekend and after school and all that. So I believe it was a calling for me. But then once you get it, again, it's like, oh, wow, here I'm in this role now. I think it's critical to find someone that has your same beliefs and your, thoughts and desires and passion and all of that. And connecting with them and talking to them, someone you can call and say like, hey, this is going on. They're not going to criticize or whatever, but just give you feedback of maybe think about this or.
Yes. So is that something you think a new leader should seek out, someone that they can confide in or mentor,
Absolutely.
some kind of coach?
And I think, I've heard you've been a wonderful mentor to people of, sharing all of your information and all of that. And so some people do that very naturally. And then others, like I'm thinking, oh, I didn't even think about that. Sorry. Here you go. No problem. I don't have any time, problem sharing, but I didn't think about maybe giving it to a mentee prior. But I think you have to have that trusted confidant, that person that you go to that maybe they're not a formal mentor, but someone you can say like, hey,
run things
help
by
me with this. Yes.
Yes. And certainly as we go through our career, I know for myself, for sure, it's been different types of people at different times in my career. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Certainly you need something different at the beginning than you would after you at least have your first year in.
But I still have someone that I call.
As do I, yes.
Driving home probably 3 days a week of.
Yes. And Chris, I know you have Grant and PJ. I bet they're great mentors for you.
They help me out with a lot of my questions for sure. Yeah.
They're amazing. Absolutely. So now let's move forward a little bit, Ms. Coronado. As a seasoned principal, what do you see as the most common mistakes or pitfalls that a new principal could fall into?
My number one thing is you have to go slow to go fast. I remember thinking, I've got to have all the answers. I've got to be able to answer, like I said, things come at you 90 miles an hour and you're having to answer a lot of questions and respond to different things. And I kept thinking, I've got to know it all. And I've realized that number one, it's impossible to know it all. Number two, I think it's okay to say, you know what, I don't know that, but let's research it. Let's call someone. Let's see what we can find out. Or also, sometimes people come to you with a panic or a question or what they feel like is a situation, but they just need time to kind of think about it, work through it. And so if I'm always real quick to respond, that's not really helping them. So, and then also knowing not everything's going to happen in the first year or the first 9 weeks. It takes time and that's okay. So.
Yes. No, I love that. And that speaks to me about what Mr. Carr said to us last time. Mr. Carr was saying, you have to be okay with not having all the answers, and not being afraid to tell people, I don't know, but I'll get the answer to you as quick as possible. Yeah.
And it's really, I love it now that I can say oh, I don't know, but ask so-and-so. That's their strength, and that's
but when
another.
You're a new leader,
I know you want to.
Well, you want people to believe in you, right?
Right.
And so sometimes as new leaders, we think if I don't have the answers, I lose my credibility, when it's actually quite the opposite.
Right. If you say something and it doesn't work out or whatever, then you lose more credibility.
Yes,
at
absolutely.
that point. So
yeah, good advice. Good advice.
I also think, just being a good listener, talk less, listen more.
Yes.
Which kind of goes hand in hand with what I was saying earlier too. It's okay to just kind of sit back and take it all in and reflect and process things and then speak to, or,
very good advice. The thing I guess that's really resonating with me right now, Ms. Coronado, is when you talk about being a new leader, nowhere did we talk about you have to know all the curriculum. Nowhere did we say, you have to hand pick everything. That really is really blaring at me right now.
Well, it's impossible to know all that. I think you have to know your team. I think you have to know what their strengths are. And we've done some of that in Aspiring Administrators.
We sure have.
And getting people on your team that are very well versed in curriculum in different areas, and being able to go to them to say.
Actually, that makes me think of so then even as a new leader or even as a seasoned principal, so how important is it to have those relationships with your team or to create your team?
Oh, it's the utmost importance.
So strong relationships.
Absolutely. Just like we say relationships with students is the number one thing for a classroom, the relationship with your staff members is the number one thing for that school.
100%.
Yeah. Okay, Chris. Well, Ms. Coronado, this brings us to the end of our episode.
Thank you.
We're so excited that you joined us. It was great tips. Thank you so much for helping our evolving educators, and they're starting their career. And so we always like to end the episode with a great quote. Do you have something that inspires you?
I do. My favorite quote is from Albert Einstein, and it's, "In the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity."
Great one, Chris.
Wow, that's super powerful.
Chris, what a great episode. What a great show.
Yeah, that was really exciting. I learned a lot about Miss Coronado that I didn't know.
I know. I love that. And do you know that today, this is a special day for her. She got to be on our podcast, which she was a great guest. And today she was named the vice president of the Texas State Organization.
That's amazing for her, for Valley Ranch Elementary, and for our district.
Yes. What a great, and she is a great role model for that, don't you think?
Yeah, I'm so happy that, we can kind of brag about her for this.
No kidding. And she serves on the committee for the Aspiring Leadership Academy.
Right.
And so she's always full of great topics. And she just led a great session with the aspiring leaders and she offered real life scenarios.
Okay.
And then she put them in groups. She told stories, and then they had to decide, what would you do as a new leader?
That's an incredible way to learn. And the fact that they got to collaborate amongst themselves to solve a scenario, I can't think of a more efficient way for them to practice and gain new skills.
Absolutely. And what a great way, real world experiences.
Yeah.
And so we spent some time on that. And I will say, I could tell that the aspiring leaders were very excited to have some of those because they were real world scenarios that she got. It was great. Well, now, Chris, we're to definitely a fun part of our show that you and I really like, and we're going to answer some questions from our aspiring leaders.
I can't wait. What do we got this week?
So this week we have from Clayton Fisher, and he wants to know, what are the biggest day-to-day challenges a leader faces?
Well, Clayton, I think that Ms. Coronado addressed this a lot in the episode. I think a leader really needs to be efficient with their calendar, their time management, and their decision making. I think as a principal, you have to plan for something to happen at X time, but you have to be ready and available to triage if there's something else that you need to do that's more pressing.
Absolutely. And she did a great job of talking about how to balance leadership and management.
Absolutely.
Because those are two separate things, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So With the thing that I think of, Chris, when I think of challenges that I have is decision making. And so the amount of decisions a leader has to make daily is astronomical. So an article I was just reading from the Association from Supervision and Curriculum Development said a principal makes about 350 decisions a day. And they went on to explain that actually can lead to decision fatigue.
Yeah.
So, and
makes sense.
and then that actually results in poor decision making.
Right.
So then it goes back to what Miss Coronado and even Mr. Carr had stated, that you got to have a good team around you and make sure that you have that organizational system in place.
Right.
So you're not overwhelmed.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have a team, you have to be able to utilize them.
Absolutely. That's great. So our next question comes from Emily Alexander. And I thought this was a great, very different kind of question, Chris. She wants to know, how do I help with writing curriculum for the district? That's a good question.
It's a great question.
I wonder, Chris, if she knew that all she had to do is start with her principal. So Emily, just start with your principal and let them know what your interests are. I would even say that your principal, especially as an aspiring leader, you need to go to your principal and tell them what your goals are. And so that they know how they can help you. They may be away at a meeting, some topic comes up and they think, oh, I think Donda mentioned that to me, or Emily mentioned that to me.
Yeah.
And so you can ask them to reach out to the district office and tell the district office, hey, I have this person who is a great teacher and would be so excited to participate in any curriculum activities that you have.
Right. And then, Emily, from that opportunity, you can maybe help edit the scope and sequence during the summer. And
they are
really,
always looking for people for that, Chris.
Really assist the instructional specialist for whichever content you're trying to break out into. Emily.
Yes, and even reviewing those. They always need people to review bundle tests
Absolutely.
and CBAs and those kind of things, district assessments.
Right.
So there are a lot of ways where the district curriculum specialists look to teachers for that leadership.
Right.
So I love that.
Yeah, that's a great question, Emily, and I hope that you do reach out to your principal and start making the steps to write curriculum.
Absolutely. So that was kind of a different question, and I love hearing from our aspiring leaders. So we want to make sure you fill out those exit tickets whenever you're meeting with Ms. Schaffner. So then who knows, we might pull your name, Chris.
Yeah.
Yes. So Chris, we're already gearing up for our next episode. We will feature one of our amazing high school principals, Principal Heine. Of West Fork High School. We're in this beautiful building we're sitting at right now. And we will outline the most important skills that a principal needs to be a successful leader. And I look forward to this episode so much.
I do too. I can't wait to listen to what Principal Heine has to share with us.